Happy New Year from us here at the Gardening Experience. We are so happy you joined us and welcome back to the Gardening Experience podcast, where we talk about things that we are talking about as we get ready to plant our church this year. So we are so excited that you are with us. We are so excited for what God's going to do in your life. And we are so excited to see everything that God does. We pray a blessing over your life in this very moment. We ask God to shine his face upon you and bless you. And if we haven't met you in person, we have experiences coming up that we would love for you to come and join us and be part of it. We also have our prayer experience happening this January 8th at 4:30 p.m. So we'd love for you to join us. And we're praying throughout the week at 9 a.m. every day for 21 days that we've already been doing it. So we're really excited. Happy New Year, Casey, and Happy New Year, Nate.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys.
I am so glad for everything that happened last year, and I'm so glad for everything that's happening this year. New Year tradition, is there anything you do, anything special? You drink anything? You eat anything? You stay up? You go to bed early? What do you do? What did you do?
Not really like anything special. I'm not the one to go out to party and, do all that fun stuff and whatnot, but probably just stay home. That's my New Year's Eve tradition.
Strongest character trait.
Wake up on Sunday morning.
Stay home.
Yeah. Wake up Sunday morning and start the new year. I don't really do anything like specifically special for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or anything like that. Usually spend time with my family. Maybe my dad will make steaks or something on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
But
we're recording this a few days before New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously my intro was so golden.
That was probably like one of the best intros we've ever had. So I'm just going to tell you that.
Yeah, no, that was great. It's, I think maybe once before I've done something special on New Year's Eve, and it was like probably go to the beach or something like that, and you just stay there till midnight or something, and there's a bunch of people. I don't know. It was not memorable because I didn't enjoy it.
I was about to say, you're like one of those people that do like the moon thing.
Yeah, right. No, that's actually not me. I don't know why I did it. It just happened.
It was you and your family, or
with my friends. I don't even remember who I was with. It was so
wow,
long
it was
ago.
so memorable. You can remember your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but definitely not for me. Nothing. I'll just stay home and relax. And once Sunday comes around, and it's New Year.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
Usually it's the same. I think before when I was at my old church, my parents would always host people here at home. And they always like to do like worship nights into the new year, and obviously that changes when you move churches, and so for a while they kept that up, and then gradually it just kind of, as we got older, my parents and I was just kind of like, do we want to stay up at night? Like, I don't really care to. What's funny now is I think my parents stay up later on New Year's Eve than I do. It's like so like naturally, like I'm a night owl. It's weird. I'm a night owl that wakes up early in the morning, so I just don't sleep basically. Yeah. Like I'm very my mind works and I'm very active at night, but for some reason I naturally just wake up very early in the morning. So I honestly probably get my average sleep time is 3 hours, which is not great, but.
Not great at all.
That's not great, but I'm still functioning somehow. But anyway, usually on New Year's Eve, I guess it's my body just knows when it's New Year's Eve because I want to sleep at 8 or 9 p.m., which I don't do. Even if I don't drink coffee and I don't do anything and I naturally get tired, it'll be 2 or 3 a.m. by the time I'm tired naturally. Wow. But on New Year's Eve, the last 3 years, I can say without fail, I'm usually sleeping by 9 p.m. And so I'm kind of hoping that that's the same for this year.
That's crazy.
But other than that, I think just probably some dinner with family. Nothing crazy. I mean, that's my answer for the big three at the end of the year, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then New Year's. What are your plans? Nothing crazy.
Staying at home, chilling.
What about you?
Except you didn't stay at home for Christmas. That's what we were just.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No. We won't. I think my sister might be here, so that'll be awesome.
Nice.
They came from Louisiana. They just so that's gonna be a great celebration. I have young kids. None of them can hang. They all start falling asleep around 7:30, 8 p.m. My oldest now is 10, Sebastian. He could have this year he'll make it. He's been like practicing, like during school week. He'll stay in his room.
Yeah.
And then he'll come back out randomly. He's like, "Is it close to midnight?" I was like, "Bro, it's a school day. You gotta wake up early. What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just trying to stay up till midnight." I was like, "All right." So he'll definitely do it because Christmas and all the stuff. He's been staying up till like 11, 11:30 every night. So he'll be fine this year for the first time. Usually my wife falls asleep, so I end up just welcoming the year by myself and going to bed around 12:30. For the kids, we play Netflix countdowns for kids around 9 p.m. So we celebrate the new year on the 31st with them, and then they go to bed. Luca will go to bed, my second child. He'll go to bed right off the bat. Like, he'll fall asleep right off the bat.
Good for him.
Yeah, like no fight, no battle. It's amazing how he falls asleep. I'm like, man, I want to be like you.
I want that ability. Yeah.
Like, no fighting mentally. Just close your eyes and you're done. But you reminded me, Casey, when you mentioned that weird story of you at the beach.
Yeah.
So I'm from Puerto Rico, if in case you guys know, and I moved here in '98 to California, and we went back in 1999, 2000. And I know you guys were super young at the time, but do you remember Y2K? You remember that it was like a big thing? Casey's saying no. So it's like they had this whole fear where the computers were not going to be able to cross over to the year 2000. Yeah. And it was going to reset everything. I know it sounds silly and stupid, right?
It was a huge
But it was like people were so afraid.
Yeah.
People were taking out money from banks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we traveled back to Puerto Rico.
That's crazy.
To celebrate that millennium coming in. And a bunch of teenagers. We were at my aunt's house in Maya West, the West San German, in the West Pass part of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And we heard the countdown. 10, 9. And one of my cousins said, "Dude, when they go in the countdown, we should go outside for the breaker box. And when he reaches 0, just turn everything off." So we did. And we turned it, and all you would hear was my aunt screaming, "Ah, it happened! It happened!" And then she saw the house next door with the lights on.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy. That's a good
just
job.
one of those weird memories that you remember. Like, that was the weirdest, best New Year celebration that we had.
No kidding. That's so funny. I don't really have too many memories or stories like that.
Puerto Rico and the holidays for me are irreplaceable.
Yeah,
like
sure,
I pray my kids have memories like I do, but I know they won't. Just because the cultural elements of Puerto Rico, like like Christmas in Puerto Rico doesn't end till somewhere in January, because January 6th is another big holiday celebration.
Okay.
So Christmas is still going on.
Yeah.
They do these things called parrandas, which is where people randomly show up to people's houses like to sing Christmas carol. But instead of that, it's like with festive music.
Okay.
And you are supposed to still give them food. Like, you're supposed to give them hot chocolate and bread and cheese and stuff like that. But they'll go from house to house just doing all of that.
Yeah.
Surprising, singing a bunch of songs, hitting a bunch of like Afro-Puerto Rican instruments or stuff like that. So it's really a lot of fun. Singing bomba, which is a style of music that's very native to Puerto Rico. So it's like all that is part of my childhood, and of course illegal fireworks. Because
Top of the
there's
tree
always
right
have
there.
to be illegal fireworks, you know.
Yeah,
It has to be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, there's always on my street, like behind my house. There's usually always firecrackers. Firecrackers that went off on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, Santa's coming. You don't do that. You're supposed to be asleep.
Christmas Eve, even like on Thanksgiving, randomly people would shoot off. I mean, it wouldn't even be a holiday, and people shoot off fireworks for
soon as
wherever
you
they
get
get them
them,
from.
you just
So
light 'em up,
you just go to your home and you're in your front yard and you're on your driveway.
Yeah,
But you don't see them; you just hear them.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's usually
Just the popping. Well, it's a new year, Casey. So take us over.
Yeah.
Lead us in this conversation.
Yeah, well, happy New Year to everybody. Not today. Happy New Year to everybody.
Everyone's like, not today.
Not today.
Yeah, we
I'm
usually
not leading you today.
We usually throw up a camera so we can get clips and stuff like that, but I forgot SD cards and all that stuff, and so
So we're okay. I just noticed, and I was like, Did we
Armando was
pause for
pointing.
this? Like,
Armando was pointing towards it.
I just noticed too.
No, yeah. I'm still on Christmas hangover. So,
Yeah.
but no, happy
Christmas.
Yeah, happy.
How much do you drink, Casey?
Man, it's not even about drinking. Like,
Zero.
Yeah, zero. I wish I would have slept.
He was so services.
Yeah, it was so many services and all that stuff. But it was great serving bunch of different churches and all that stuff. But happy New Year's to everyone. For those of you listening, it's New Year's. I really hope everyone looks forward to the new year, and I think that's what the word that I have that I want to bring today was really ultimately about. We had a prayer gathering back earlier last year, and we were talking about like praying for the new year and stuff like that. And really, what God dropped into my heart was like. Even something from my own experience that I thought about was like, man, oftentimes we go into the New Year's just hoping that they're going to be better than the one that we previously had. And I could really attest to that going in from like 2020 to 2021, like, I mean, even I remember even family and stuff like that, or people, friends from 2019 to 2020 was like, 2020 is going to be such a good year. It's so awesome. Yeah. And then we hit 2020 and, everyone.
What did they call it? The roaring 20s? Because it was supposed to be like 1920s, roaring 20s or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was a roaring 20.
It was roaring, but, probably not in the way people expected or hoped for. But really, I think, just the general consensus of it was just it was a horrible year with the whole COVID and everything and, people losing their jobs, places getting shut down, all that stuff and whatnot. People just did not expect that to happen. When it came down to holidays, we were being told not to meet with families and, all this stuff. And there's just a lot of, just a whole mess. And, even going from 2020 to 2021, everyone was like, man, I really hope this New Year's like we get a better year than we had last year. And it was just kind of like, I think the whole idea stems from that of like, man, we walk into these New Year's just like, oh, I hope it's better than the one before. And there's really not, I think we've lost this faith of like, man, why don't we believe that this New Year is going to be the best year that we'll experience? And, really, I do think there is, the idea of it, like there's like this like controversial idea of it, like, maybe the year doesn't pan out the way that you want it to, but yet it's still the best year that you've had because of how much you've grown and how much you've developed from it, which is very interesting too, because I think that when we think about having the best years that we've ever had or something like that, like we have this expectation of it being, maybe flourishing in all areas of your life, with your family, with your finances, with your friends, your relationships, with your work or whatever it is. Like that's when I'm gonna have my best year yet. And, I think in some ways, yeah, like that's what we do. We believe for, like, we want to flourish in our work. We want to flourish with our families and our relationships and in our finances and in our health and all that stuff. Like that's what we look forward to. But maybe sometimes it's not just the way God intended it to be. And so, it's definitely really tough, I think, for myself, and maybe you guys can share it for yourself too, is like, especially when you walk into a situation and it doesn't turn out the way you expected it or you're hoping it to. Ultimately my response many times is like, man, why do I have to experience this? Or, we've talked about this before. Why do I have to suffer? Why didn't it turn out the way that I wanted it to? Like I wanted this to be the best year yet, but yet, maybe within the first 14 days, you're like, well, this sucked. This is going to be a bad year again. Like,
I didn't keep my goals.
Yeah,
my New Year
I didn't keep my goals. Yeah, and I think that that's where it ultimately turns around. We have this idea, and we already make the judgment of the year is going to suck. It didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, and then we kind of just walk in the rest of the year just like, well, I hope it gets better. I hope something better happens to me this year. Or, it's already started out so tough, and I really think it ultimately comes down to, a relationship with God and like saying, what, I mean, for this year for myself, like I'm believing it's going to be a breakthrough year. Like I believe that and I'm praying for that and I'm going to walk like it and I'm going to talk like it because, I'm not afraid to be bold like that. And I think that none of us
you got to
should.
Believe it too. Otherwise it's never going to happen.
Exactly.
If you believe that and you don't, if you say that, I believe it's going to be a breakthrough year, but I don't believe it.
Right.
Good luck.
But
Good luck with that breakthrough.
Yeah. And it does, come down to like, man, I believe it's going to break the year, but yet I'm, waking up extremely late or, I'm not putting any effort into the gifts and talents that God's given me. I'm not actually like putting effort into where God's calling me to go. I'm not even putting my effort into my relationship with Jesus. Like it's just, like you said, I think that when we believe these things, we start acting on it. And so, that's really, what I think God was challenging me with this year too, was just like, you know, how often do we just kind of walk into the year? It's just like, I hope it goes a certain way. I hope it turns out this way. You know, I hope that I get a raise at my job, or, you know, I hope that my family can, be reunited, or I can, fix this relationship with my friends, or, maybe my finances I can stop living, on the edge of my finances, paycheck to paycheck, whatever that looks like for you. It's just like, even if things don't, I have an expectation. I think we all do. I kind of have like, we set expectations for like, we believe in what the new year is going to be and what it's going to look like. I think part of the hard part too is like, well, maybe if something doesn't turn out a certain way, like, how do we respond to that? Do I let my faith fail there and I just forget everything that I said, everything that I believed, and just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna, see where this goes. Where's this year gonna go? Like, stop believing that it's gonna be a breakthrough. Stop believing in God actually desiring the greatest for you this year. Yeah. And I think that's where we build this relationship with Jesus, and we kind of, as we, dive into the Word, and as we really ultimately gets revealed, like sometimes God lets things happen to us where we're questioning whether, is this actually good for, like, sometimes we make the immediate judgment that it's, oh, whatever this has happened to me is not good for me. It's not, this isn't what I expected this year to hold, or I didn't think that this was going to happen. I think sometimes really do believe that God will allow things into our lives for the benefit, for His glory and our benefit, so that we can grow too. So, it's just, there's that fine line of like, sometimes when we think what our best years are, sometimes a year may, like I can say, honestly, like 2022 was probably the best year I've ever had. And I believe that I'm going to have an even better year in 2023. Yeah. But what 2022 looked like was a lot of like walking in valleys and climbing up hills. And it was just a lot of up and downs. Yeah. But yet it was the best year because why? Because I've grown, I've been developed, I've been, got a deeper relationship with God. A lot of things have been revealed to me. A lot of things that, I need to step away from in order to step into the greater things that God has for me. And so like, it's that fine line of like, what does greatness like look like for you? And so, to me, it's like, it's not necessarily all popularity, and it's not all money. Like, I don't have to have those things in order to be great. Like,
and those things don't last. Like, so, you could be sorry to interrupt you, but there's a major crisis right now going on with major athletes and major celebrities that you start hearing stuff like they committed suicide, and you wonder, like, why? Yeah. They have all the money in the world.
Right.
Doesn't do anything. I think it was last week when we talked briefly on the Day of Wrath and what it means to for the ancient Jews, which meant like it's a day where things don't go as planned. When you get your heart broken, your wife leaves you, you lose your job, you lose a parent, you get a diagnosis from a doctor that you have some kind of disease or sickness that's gonna take you away in 3 months. And it's like, that's a day of wrath. Like, everything's not working out. But you have all this money in the world. Money can save you from a broken heart. Money can give you good health. Money can buy you happiness. And and that's kind of what, what you're saying. Yeah. Success and popularity. What happens when you're not popular anymore? What happens when you get ugly? If you build your entire life on being the hot girl, what happens when your skin sags? And you get wrinkly, and your hair changes color. Good luck. You can get surgery. Well, you're gonna look like Cher. What are you gonna look like? I mean,
seriously, it's it's just the definition, and I think that's kind of like what I think we believe we want to help with too, is like discovering and realizing what greatness really is, and that. Ultimately, it's not popularity and it's not money. And, I think from my own experience too, I may not necessarily have had those things in my life, but having even just the desire for them already leads you to corruption and already leads you to like this just like void in your life of like this emptiness of, I love music. I love writing music. And ultimately, when you think about music and stuff like that, oftentimes a lot of the great artists, like their music has led them to popularity and money and which can be a great thing. I think that we have to...
It could be an end result of your hard work.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's definitely okay. And like we can be able to use those things as tools as well, to reach people and to connect with people and stuff like that. And so it's not that those things aren't bad, but it's like when it came down to me even, kind of discovering what God's is calling on my life, and man, like I want to use music to impact the music industry, and add value to it and stuff like that. What I was initially, prior to, maybe in like 2020 or something like that, when I started getting into, producing and writing, and I'd say the same for Nathan, because we both write together and we produce together. Really, I was just like, man, ultimately just wanting to write just so I can become popular and get a bunch of money. Like, and what it led to was like no passion. I had no, inspiration. What I was doing, it was just a task, and it was something I have to do.
Yeah.
So what I was writing and all the music I was writing, it was crap. Like, really, honestly, like it was just bad music, because there was no emotion in it. There was no passion. There was no, you couldn't even like, where's the influence come from? What is motivation behind it? And that's ultimately where I believe, when we begin to, give all our attention to popularity and money and all that stuff, and what we believe, success can be determined as, that's where we find this, like this, it's only limited to what it can offer you. Like it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. And it just becomes, you get these like empty feelings in you, and you just like, man, what is the point of this? And so, it's like, I think what, I'm trying to help kind of like isolate too, is just like, man, what is greatness? What does that look like for us? What does that mean to us? And,
and it's different individually.
Yeah.
Like, it's different for each team, but it's different individually, because each of us is so uniquely different.
That's good.
That what you're great at, I'm not gonna be great at. This is why it's so good to have a team.
Yeah.
That's each leader is strong enough to recognize that I need strong leaders that are great in their areas. That I need to be the best I can be in my areas.
Yeah.
While developing other leaders in those areas. But then I need to hire out and build myself around other great leaders that will do things that I would never do, because they're great at being who they are.
Yeah, that's super good. And that's, I think that's what we do, even just as like a church too, and heading into the new year, like what we desire, like we want, like we're going to plant this year, like it's going to happen, whether like, it's just going to happen. And I believe that we're going to experience like just an unexpected amount of greatness that only comes from God and what he can do through us and for us. And
what he could do through submitted lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because that's how greatness comes for us. Like, I mean, what does Jesus say? Right? Jesus says to his disciples, you want to be great? Serve. That's the answer.
Yeah.
You want to be great in this life? Serve.
Yeah.
Get dirty.
Yeah.
Go get it. Don't think better of yourself than others. Rather, humble yourself and serve other people. And as you're doing that, serve with all your heart. Serve with excellence, because excellence honors God and inspires people. And then before you know it, you're great.
Yeah. Right.
But it was the way of death, not the way of exaltation, not the way of making yourself grander or greater than you are. It was just the opposite way. You became great by serving.
Yeah. And, I think that's, the direction we're all heading really into.
That's a word for me.
Yeah, it's a word for me, and I think it's a word for Nathan. It's a word for a lot of us, really, it is. And it can be so tough, but that's where I think, that's how we can make this year, 2023, the best year that we've ever had. And I think too, like whether we think like, man, back in 2000, whatever, that was the best year I've ever had. Like, God can exceed that too.
He should.
Yeah.
If you're living by your past, you have stopped living. God did not give you a past so you stay in it. He gave you a past so that you could grow from it, build from it, and move on to do greater things. So if your highlight years is always in your past, you have to wonder if you have stopped growing. You have to wonder if you have stopped following Christ. It looks different. It might not be that, whoa, like I do something as crazy as I did 5 years ago, but it might be that what you're doing is crazy for the time you are in right now. It might be a bigger risk than it would have been 5 years ago because of where you are right now.
Yeah.
So if you're only focusing on the past, there is something wrong.
Yeah, and God wants to take us from glory to glory. Like, he doesn't want to stop, And if we get comfortable and we stop, like, we're going to stop. Like,
And the present, the past doesn't exist anymore. Like, we're responsible for it. We're still living the consequences of it. But you can't go back to 5 years from now. There's no back to the past or back to the future. Like, there's no way. The future doesn't exist either. This is why, like, C.S. Lewis in his Screw Tape Letter book, I think it's chapter 15. It's one of my favorite chapter. He talks about the past and the present. He talks about people that live in this world. He said they live in the past not knowing that it's black and white. It's happened. You can't go back to change it. The present is the only time that is full of vibrant colors and possibilities. And the future doesn't exist because tomorrow is not guaranteed to anyone. So, and he's a demon talking to another demon in this chapters, because that's how the book is written. And he's telling them, so your job is to get them to live in the past or to get them to live in the future. To never get them to live in the present, where the future possibilities could be actualized.
Right.
So, like, where all these dreams you have about all the music we're going to produce and the church you're going to plant, if you get them living in the future, you eventually get them to disappointment when it doesn't happen. Because they're always dreaming of what could be, but never acting towards how to make it happen. Or you get them living in the past on when the days were better. Like, we're going to get political accidentally, right? And it's not a critique on anyone's politics. It's just the best example I could give you of getting stuck in the past and not realizing that you can't go back there. It's like, we're going back to the good old days. Good old days. Though we're not that good. The good old days only appear good because you're looking at it from a distorted lens today. When I look back on my childhood in Puerto Rico and I look back at the holidays, which are, like I said, incredibly memorable, they weren't that great either in the present. In that moment, there was a lot of crap happening that was not good. But in retrospect, I look back and I was like, oh, the overall picture of it was amazing. And I wish I could have those things. So, well, there's a lot of brokenness happening in your family. There was a lot of brokenness happening in your parents. There was a lot of brokenness happening with your cousins. There was a lot of stupid stuff you were doing yourself. During those holidays, you almost made decisions that would have altered your entire life forever, Armando. This is not a lie. This is 100% truth. My brother Gabriel saved me from one of those stupid decisions by forcing my mom to get me in the car. When I had convinced my mom to let me stay behind with my cousins because we're going to do something that was really bad. And my brother Gabriel was like, Mom, no. Mom, no. Mom, right? So all that to say, like, we look at the good old days. Right. They weren't that good. There were some good things about it. And we think today's worse than it used to be. It's like, no, today's the only day we could actually do anything about what will be. So we are grateful for the past. We learn from the past. We celebrate the good of the past. But we live in the present moment. And we don't, and we're three future-oriented individuals. We've talked about this, right? We're already talking about the church we're planting in 2023 that God is helping us plant. And we have to do that because God tells us to have a vision for the future. God tells us that the heart of man makes plans, but God directs his steps. So we're making the plans knowing that today, as we act, as we record this podcast, God directs our steps. He's directing this conversation. Isn't that crazy to think? Like,
it is.
He directed you, listener, to listen to this. Because he wants you to understand that he is for you. That he doesn't want you to live in your past. He doesn't want you to live in the uncertainty of the future. He wants you to live today. You make your plans for tomorrow, knowing that he's directing your steps. So.
And you.
Sorry, I went in like strong tangent.
You open my mind.
We're talking about the new year.
And it's. I think something I've been challenged with is oftentimes when I do, I face the, man, I hope that this new year is going to be better. Is oftentimes when I'm immediately comparing it to last year, and I keep comparing, every day. It's like, well, this day is better than it was last year. Or this holiday is better than it was last year. And it's like as I keep comparing it to last year, I think you bring up a great idea is that we're not actually living in the moment. We're so concerned about something else. We're concerned about the past or the future, and I mean, ultimately, I think part of, experiencing greatness and, what God that desires for us is like, we got to, like you said, like have have the vision for the future, because it's going to help us go in the direction that we should be going in. But also, like, man, what can we do today that's going to benefit us for tomorrow? How can I, accomplish something today that will help me be successful tomorrow, that, that will make me better for tomorrow? And so it's just like, being able to just be aware and give 2023, or like give God our attention ultimately, because, if we give, money or, our, something else our attention, we're going to probably miss out on what God wants to be, is trying to tell us, wants us to do, wants to lead us in. Ultimately give God our attention. I think, that's a big thing for me this year too, is like, man, I want to give God all my attention, because he is, he will establish my steps. He is establishing my steps. He's helping me go in the direction that's going to help me to flourish and to experience greatness and to be who he's called me to be, all that he desires for me. And so it's like, give God, my full attention, but like give 2023 my attention too. Like, man, if I want this year to be the best year that I've ever had, like, I've got to be here in 2023 and not be like, man, well, 2022, like I said, 2022 was like probably the best year that I've had, because of how much growth and development I've had, and it didn't look like, how maybe someone would just define success with money and popularity and all that stuff, or, big business growth, or, you made big business moves, or whatever, how you determine it. But it was still the greatest year that I've ever had. But it's like, man, I want 2023 to be the greatest year that I have, that I have to give it attention. I have to be in the moment. I have to, give God my attention and be like, okay, we're going to step into this year, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to walk like it. I'm going to talk like it. I'm going to be about it. I'm going to believe it and have faith in it, because God does want to take us from glory to glory, and he wants greatness for us. Like,
I'm making my plans for the future.
Yeah.
And I'm not living only in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's the other way of disappointing yourself.
Yes.
It's not only just comparing yourself to the past.
Yeah.
It's also comparing yourself to a future that isn't a reality yet. So you start saying like, man, I want this. You have a discontent of not getting like I thought there's this phrase. So I'll say it before so that everyone that hears like, wow, darn it, Armando is so like ambitious that he's ridiculous. I thought I was going to write 3 books this year. Right? The phrase is, you overestimate what you could do in a year, but you underestimate what you could do in 5 years. Right? So if you are like me, like I was reflecting on the way on the drive here, I was like, man, I thought I was going to do 3 books this year. What was I thinking? Like 1 book, I started my second book. It's not like I haven't started the second book. I started the second book, and I was like, it just took way longer to the editing process that I thought it was gonna take me. So I was like, so maybe it's more realistic for me to aim for the goal of like, I finish 1 book a year. So in the next 5 years, I could say I wrote 5 books.
Yeah.
Now that's a lot of books.
Yeah, it is.
So now it's like, but if I was like, I overestimated, right? So I was living in this weird, like, this year I'm going to tackle all of this. And then the disappointment of like, as November came and I'm like, I'm working on this second book, but I'm a little bit stuck and I need to edit the first book now.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm not going to get to my third book. Maybe I just sacrifice my whole time and just do nothing but this. It's like, well, now you're going to devalue everything important in your life to attain some unachievable goal, so that you could feel content with this image that you created of the future, that you're willing to sacrifice the things that are actually important to you to get.
Yeah.
So you could be discontented both ways, trying to compare to the last year or trying to compare to an image of the future that's not realistic at all.
And I can attest to that too, because that was in my experience, when Nathan and I were writing music, because I do believe ultimately God wants us to write music and wants us to release songs for that we could benefit.
I'm 100% in.
Yeah, and when I talk about that, my goal is like, I want us to be able to impact and add value to the music industry, like in fresh new ways, and just like add value to it. And so that's why we're like, man, we should write and release. But when we were writing and releasing for the wrong, we had the wrong motivation and the wrong idea of what we were doing it for and how we were doing it and why we were doing it. It was just like, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, because we were like, dude, like, we want to release an album or something like that, and we were like, man, we have 2 weeks to do this kind of thing or something like that. You put a lot of pressure, and then you just don't find any joy. You don't find.
We have 2 weeks to do it, and we'll have 2 songs.
Yeah, and that's dude. We put a lot of pressure. Like,
can we do an EP? That's your album, right?
But it's true, and you know, I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we were like, man, maybe it was something that was achievable in 2 years, or maybe it was achievable in just a year, not just like a month. It was like over the course of a year you do it. But we were putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, which then the next year it was just kind of like, well, should we do this again, because it's gonna happen again. So it's that idea, we were putting a lot of pressure on ourselves because we were living in the future, and then when we were disappointed in the result of it, we were like, when we got past that time and that season, looking back, it was like living in the past. Like, well, it's just gonna happen again, so why would we even try? Like, we just lose motivation and joy and passion. It was like, what we needed to do was just like be in the moment and be, ultimately like give God our attention and see why we were doing this, and have Him help us understand, give us the strength that we need, the passion and the inspiration that we need, and to be like, well, let's just do this right now. Let's just be in the moment right now. Let's write right now. And I think that's where we're also finding right now as we're writing, and we're if for any musician or artist listening, or just a creative, like it goes in all those avenues. Like, as we're writing and creating now, it's like we're finding so much more joy and passion and inspiration, because we're not ultimately, we have a vision of where we want to go, but we're not ultimately like comparing ourselves to the future and keeping that at the forefront of our mind and where we want to get to. Like, yeah, I believe that God, I have that vision of like where we want to go, and I believe that God will lead us there and direct us and guide us, especially if He's put this calling on our hearts, but not having that be, because it can become distorted too. We can have this expectation of it, of being, we're going to be wealthy and we're going to have a lot of popularity and all that stuff. And like what God actually intended, can become distorted. Yeah. And also making sure that, what we experienced in the past, to us, what I would consider for myself, speaking for myself, is like a failure. That was actually like there's a lot to learn from that. And, I think what we're taking from that is good as we head into this new season of writing and creating.
And forgive me here, Casey, for interrupting you and for what I'm going to say, because I might be completely off. Sure. It also taught you that you learned the wrong stuff. So, right, like what you learned from your past was, well, we fell then, so we're going to fail in the future. Mm-hmm. Rather than saying, what can we learn from our failure? Like John Maxwell's statement that I love, I'm trying to teach it to my kids, especially to my oldest kid right now. Yeah. It's like, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Like, it's good. Every loss, it's an opportunity to learn different things. And my kid says the same thing. Sometimes you lose. It's like, no. Sometimes you learn. And I had to teach him. Why? Because every loss teaches you something. That's right. You only lose if you actually don't learn from it. Because as we've discussed already in the past, often success is a series of failures that you learn and you learn and you learn, or you try over and you try over and you try over. And with every failure, you're learning what didn't work, what can we do differently, what like me right now, I was driving over and I said, what was I thinking? To think that I could write 3 books in 1 year, that's a wild. It is a wild goal. But I was like, well, I'm living out of our savings, so this is the way, like, I got time. It's like, no, you don't. Time is still like, you still have other priorities than just writing. It's not like you could just write 24/7. So the lesson was like, I overestimated the ability and the length and the amount of work that it was going to take. Yeah. So the same thing, like, you guys are learning that your motivations were wrong. So it's like, okay, our motivations were wrong. Also, the pressure we put on ourselves was wrong. Yeah. It was unrealistic. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that consistency is better. I learned that when I schedule myself to write, I write. Right. That if I have a goal of 750 words a day, I will hit that goal. It might take me 4.5 hours. It might take me 6.5 hours. Yeah. But if I have it there, I will reach the goal. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours. And it's like, wow, it's impossible that in 2 hours I wrote 1,000 words, not 750, but 1,000 words. So it's like you're learning that. Like, okay, what did we learn? Consistency gets us across the finish line. That's right. Compared to let's crash in 2 weeks, a whole album. Yeah. It's like, that was just unrealistic. Okay. Yeah. What else did we learn? We learned that our motivations were wrong, like we mentioned. Right, yeah. So it's like we were doing it to make money. Now we're doing it to add value, impact the world, and change the music interesting. You're trying to disrupt culture. So you're going, what did we learn about that? Well, we learned our motivations were wrong, and because we were only pursuing fame and money, we didn't deserve even the fame and money we were gonna get.
Yeah.
Because it was gonna destroy us.
Yeah.
Rather than build us.
Yeah.
So now that we know that, now we could come into this and going, no matter how the song does in this moment,
Yeah.
we want to succeed. Why? Because it has value. But that's the goal.
That's right.
The goal is to add value,
That's right.
to inspire, to impact, to disrupt the world.
Yeah. That's right.
Complete different things. Like
It
all of a
is-
sudden
yeah.
you're going, wow, I'm looking at my past way different
Yes.
than I was looking. And partially, we haven't let Nate talk, so he needs to bring in some of the thoughts. But partially, one of the reasons why I think we enter into a new year with disappointments is that we never complete the past. We never go, well, what did I expect to happen in this past year? Like, you still have time to do this. Like, to sit down and say, what do you expect to happen in 2022? And then you write it. Like, I expected to write 3 books. And I expected that we were going to have this. I thought initially, when we first started 2022, I thought we were going to launch in sometime in 2022.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
thought maybe spring 2023. And it's like, no, it looked like it's going to be fall
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you expect? I expected that. What actually happened? And then you write what happened, and then you write, and what did you learn from it? So now you're going like, here's what I learned about it. Like 3 books a year is ridiculous, but a book a year is doable if it's scheduled. So that means that in the next 5 years I could have 5 books released. Wow,
right.
crazy to think that's possible. 2, what else did you learn from it? Consistency compounds. What else do you learn from it? A schedule that's set helps you achieve and thrive. What else do you learn? And then all of a sudden, okay, so now I've completed the past because I expressed what I expected to happen. I actually set what happened, and I learn from it. So
Yeah.
I don't feel that it's just burdens on my shoulders that I'm carrying. Because often what happens is we end up coming into the new years with all these broken goals and expectations that we never did. And even if the year's good, like you're saying 2022
Yeah.
was your best year, right, Casey? So even if the year was good, there's still things about it that unless you complete it,
Yeah.
unless you come full circle with them to learn from them,
Yes.
will be like thorns on your side.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, well, you tried that last year, but didn't really work out. I'm still here. So when I used to write a lot, my biggest songwriting blocks would happen when I wouldn't finish a song. I learned that about myself. That I started running into like these major roadblocks of songwriting where I would start to write a new song,
Yeah.
and it was like the other song was haunting me. Like, I'm still here. We're only halfway there. So I'm not going to let you steal anything attention because all these lyrics that you're trying to write are reminding you that I'm still here. So I had to go back to finish the song so that I could finish the other song that I was working. I needed to complete it. And sometimes it would end super crappy. And it's like, but at least I completed that. It's no longer haunting me, telling me that I didn't finish it. So it's kind of the same concept with the goals or dreams or expectation that we have for 2022. It's like anything you didn't close will continue to haunt you. So just close it down. Like, here's what I thought was going to happen. Here's what happened. Here's what I learned. Here's what I could do different now.
Yeah, it's, I really do think reflection is important. And that's what we did on our last episode of the Garden Experience podcast, too. If you haven't listened to that, make sure you go listen to it. But we reflected on the year of the garden experience and, like, what the year was like, what we did, what we, maybe there's things that we didn't like, maybe things that we tried that we just didn't work out, and, the way we expected it and all that stuff. And I think that, that is important. It's just that episode even reminded me, myself, my own personal life, like how important reflection is, and to the truth is to even just write down, like, man, what did I do in 2022? And, what did I love? What did I learn? What did I not love? What hurt me? What
will I not allow?
Yeah. In 2023. And it's true. It's, and so reflection is so important. And, I think that's really helped me as I've entered into this, into the new year of like, okay, I do, it really does clear my mind, and it helps me to, really, even just believe greater that, this year is going to be the best years that's come, because, helps you establish your motivation, and it helps you, establish, the reasons why, and what you want to do and where you want to go, and, have that bigger vision for your life. And so, I completely look forward to what the new year is going to hold. And Nathan, I want to hear from you as well. Like, even just any of the things that we've said, maybe you've walked into years prior. What has your experience been with, like, when you walk into a year and you're just like, well, this, maybe you've thought the same as me, or, anyone else, just like, well, this year's just going to be maybe the same as it's been before, maybe what is this? What do you look forward to? How are you walking into the new year? Anything like that?
I think it's always been, or not always, but I think whenever I was disappointed by a previous year, I think it was always just because whatever my God was like, it didn't pan out. Like, if my God that year was like money and I didn't get enough of it, then it's like, of course you're going to be like, I hope next year's better. There are some years where like Casey said earlier, like my God was our music, and then that didn't pan out. And it's like, oh, well, next year's going to suck, because like, if this is a preview of what's to come, then I already know what's going to happen. And it's like, for so many years, the quote unquote like God of my year has never been God.
Yeah.
Until 2022, which is like so interesting to me. So
that's
now,
huge, bro.
So now I'm seeing like, okay, there's still areas where I haven't completely surrendered to God. Like, even our music, we're responsible for writing it. So like, and while
for promoting it,
and we do all the all that stuff, and Casey does like all the engineering, and it's like, physically it's all our work. But like, I would be like foolish to say that like God hasn't given us like ideas for songs. Like, there are some songs we listen to like that we've written, and we play them back, and we're listening to them while like mixing, or even listening after Casey's done some like mastering, and we're like, dude, how did our brains like come up with this? Because it's like, it's some of the nicest stuff, like within our preference of music. I'm like, dude, this is like insane. And then I think about it, and I'm like, there's no way like I came up with that. Like, and so you give credit where credit is due, and then and I think it didn't. I didn't start to see God in all of that stuff until I spent more time reflecting. Like Casey was saying, like, reflecting is just everything, especially for me right now. Like, it's been like really what separated my 2022 from the rest of the years in my life has just been the fact that I have yielded to reflection, I think. And I've been more willing to, even if there were like crappier situations in the year, months where like I didn't feel motivated or whatever, like months where it was harder, where life was like more of a struggle. After I've gone through the valley, spending time reflecting on it, and then looking where God was, like, even, when you're in the valley, you're just kind of like, this sucks, I don't want to be here. But when you're out, and you reflect on it, and you ask yourself, okay, where was God in all that? And then you actually stop and you see, okay, maybe, or you're actually, when you see like, and you're kind of able to see the reason why you went through it, and when God reveals to you like the reason why you went through a certain struggle, that's like, I had a lot of that this year, or last year, 2022. Sorry, I'm a time traveler. So like in 2022, I had a lot of moments where like,
it's December 27th
as we record this.
Yeah.
So in 2022, I had a lot of moments where God like revealed to me why I went through a lot of things. Like, even like one thing I think I spoke on our podcast like earlier about was like how I struggled with school all the time. Like I hated school. I went to Grossmont College for forever, and I was in like community college for forever, and then I felt like I wasn't going to get accepted anywhere because like my grades weren't like crazy good. They weren't bad. Like they were like, it's like a 3.7, 3.8.
That's great.
That's
He said
that
I
wasn't.
thought it was gonna be like 2.5.
No, but that, like-
it's like, bro, almost every college would have taken you in,
Right,
except
okay, but-
except you were doing like psychology. Then it's like,
then,
bro, good luck. You,
so
you need a
okay, so for
4.5.
like with a sub 4, but like higher than like a 3.5.
yeah, you were in the honor category.
Right. I want to say it's 5 years. For 5 consecutive years of me applying to just every college, I never got into one. And so for 5 years in a row being at Grossmont and then running out of things to take because I'm like, I'm done with my major now, basically. And so it's just being there.
General ed has been done twice.
Yeah, so it was funny. So when Eastlake started the leadership college, which is what I believe God used to carry me out of that season of life. It's funny when I transferred over because they were like, dude, you have 100 plus like units. You're like, you technically could just graduate now.
Twice.
Like, yeah. And so it was cool because I went through and I was able to, it was funny, like when I got my bachelor's, I totally forgot this was a thing. I was able to like pick which like associates I could also graduate with.
Wow.
Because I had just so many units. And so it was kind of interesting reflecting on that and seeing like this point in my life where like, or these years in my life where I was like, it just feels like a cycle of like endless hell, right? You're in school. I want to get out of school. Everyone around me that I went to school with is already out of school, blah, 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 whatever you're comparing. And then now seeing like how God brought me in and then out of that. And then now reflecting on not just school, but like, other things like our music, how God brought us in and out of that, what he's spun these different experiences in my life to be. And so I think really like my outlook on a new year or a current year is like 100% dependent on whatever my God was of that year. And so like, I can say like,
By the way, that's a really good word for everyone listening. Because the reality is that most of us have idols. Some kind of God that's guiding our thinking and feeling. And like, if I would have had this, I would have been happier.
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
being content with the life. So what you're saying is like powerful, bro.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I was. So like in
bro.
Like in 2020 when I graduated, when I finally graduated with my bachelor's in 2020
with 200 credits
with like 900 credits. When I finally graduated, so it's like okay, I graduated in August, and we'd already been in lockdowns for quite a while, a few months by then. And so like everyone around me was telling me, oh, it's going to be so easy for you to find a job. Like so many places are hiring. Even now people are like, it's so easy for you to find like a job. And I'm like, I've been applying since 2020 and I'm still like jobless. So like part of me is like, I already know that's God because he wants my attention somewhere else. But then to people who don't understand that, they're just like, there's no way you've been applying for 2 years and you still don't have a job. They're like, you must not be doing it right. I'm like, how do you not do it right? Like, and so like I've had people I know that are like recruiters, like, look over my resume. I've had people actually like send my resume to their recruiters who are like very successful at finding people jobs. Yeah. They haven't found me jobs. And so it's just like, I know it's God. Like, there's a calling on my life to be with you guys doing this church plant and all the other stuff we're going to do. There's a calling on my life to do music. And so God's like, I've already allocated like your time for like all this stuff. And so like, the God of my life for 2020 and 2021 really was like work. Yeah. I'm a graduate. I should be working. I want to work because I want to like be able to sustain myself and not rely on other people. And then
makes my parents proud.
Yeah, all that
time.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then God had to humble me like real quick, and he's like, "Okay, you keep applying. I'm gonna somehow keep you away from like every place of business. I guess apparently that's what it feels like." And then 2022, and I'm just reflecting on like, okay, what are the things that would not have happened if I had a job, if I had like a regular job? And so I'm thinking about like how many times I experienced God, like when we took trips to Dallas. Me, Casey, we've gone with Blake, we've gone with Sal, and we visited Mario there, and it's just like how many times have we done that I wouldn't.
Hopefully,
have been able
we'll
to
do
that.
it together soon.
Right, I know, right?
That's right.
Hopefully, when it's cold, so
you can take me to Pecan Lodge.
Yes,
Pecan Lodge, yeah, seriously. But sorry, now I'm thinking of Pecan Lounge too. But no, yeah, like it's just like now I'm thinking of what has God shown me in the last, or like those last 2 years, where my like the worry at the forefront of my mind was not how God will sustain me, but how, like what job am I going to get a job? You know.
Yeah.
And so it's just so interesting, like thinking about, and I really like came up with this while you guys were talking, and I didn't want to talk much because I'm still like I'm getting over my cold, and I like it you know how it is. My voice probably sounds different.
So my voice sounds like so
We're all sound congested.
yeah, so sexy.
Right? Yeah.
It's gonna be the most listened to podcast
We should record my
in history.
vocals now while like
No.
that's it
Raspy,
sounds
yeah.
like like
Raspy.
nasally. It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
auto tune at 100%.
It will not help. It will not help.
But yeah, anyway,
Well, I don't know, man. Say that to the Hillsong album that they recorded. Hillsong United recorded an album, Zion, I think it was.
Sure.
Really good album. The one that has Relentless.
okay, yeah.
That whatever album that it's like the most electronic album they released. There's a song where Joe Houston, he had like those things you have in your vocal cords that keeps you from singing.
Oh, his nodes, yeah.
Yeah, notes. So
Vocal
like,
nodules, yeah.
Really, you're not supposed to be singing, right? You're not supposed to be.
That's why he swaps
talking.
with Jad all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so he recorded it super high pitch, and through autotune, they brought down his tone. They made it in key,
yeah.
and it sounds amazing. But you never would have guessed that he sung
to-
it
they had
so
to play
like,
the-
with no voice. And then you wonder like, why did he never perform after it? It's like,
You can't. Yeah.
why can't he sing the song that he recorded? Because it was all autotune.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but
So magic, the magic of autotune.
It's not
I'm
just
saying,
autotune.
dude,
There's
yeah.
so much more to
I
it.
know.
There's a lot.
There's
I
so
know.
much more to it. But
There-
autotune, how much it helps. Yes.
They have so many engineers
the magic
that are
of
just professional for
of
this.
crazy.
vocal processing is insane.
Yeah, sorry, Nate. I
Yeah,
went on
you're
a
good.
super.
At this point,
Side road.
I'm rambling, but
I'm rambling worse than you.
but yeah, it's just like what I guess my final thoughts on
He's wrapping us up on everything. Look at him.
are we? Should we wrap up? Or are we?
Yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah.
Just
So like,
finish.
so we're talking about the new year and expectations and all that. And I think if you haven't tried making God the expectation of your year, and you're wondering why every year is like not great, maybe try that.
Yeah, that's good.
Is
that's good.
all I'm gonna say.
That's good.
Yeah,
bro.
and I
that's
think
a good word.
Yeah,
Say that again, bro.
Yeah,
That's good.
if you haven't made God the focus of your year, and you're wondering why your year hasn't panned out the way, the way you want it to, is because you set your expectations to the way you want it to be. But if you haven't tried aligning your year and your expectations to and trying to find out what God wants for you, and you're wondering why the year is kind of like always just in decline every year after year, then maybe you should try seeking God and setting Him first.
Good word, bro.
And I think to capitalize on that too, what that comes with is sacrifice. Like if you want to experience greatness, it comes at a price, and sometimes that price
Anything
is
worthwhile is uphill.
Yeah.
Well, like Casey said earlier, like this is, and I could say it too, like 2022 was the best years of our lives, but like not in a conventional way.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like
That's crazy.
it's not like, it wasn't anthemic, like where you took a big international trip and you did something ultra memorable or you spent a lot of
Christmas.
money. Right. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Going back to two episodes ago.
where we travel internationally and you have these big memories with all your friends, but like the quiet growth that each of us, all three of us really, but the growth that we obtained by putting in the effort, just being with God and dealing with our growth as leaders and our growth in our like skills as producers or whatever, everything. I feel like the outcome of that, while is not visible to like anyone else except for us or those in our circles, it's like it still was the greatest year, I think, for us. And so it's like Casey said, growth is sacrifice, and it's like it's weird to say that such it's like for lack of a better way of saying it, like uneventful year where like you don't go out and do lots of things, but like a lot has happened internally, and like we've spent lots of time locked away in our rooms, like just reading books and seeking God, and it's like, yeah, there weren't those title card memories of the year that most people would say would make a great year, but it's like we've sacrificed so much, we've foregone like so many things in order to seek God, and it's like that's why like to us this feels like the greatest year like that we've ever had. So yeah,
and I think too, when I talk about greatness, I think to define it is like living in the fullness of God, like, and that stems out to like everything He's called you to do and who He's called you to be, and how He's called you to live, and just like being with Jesus and being with the Lord as you walk in this on this side of eternity and experiencing the kingdom and heaven now. Like we don't have to wait till the other side of eternity to do things that glorify God and just be with Jesus and worship Him. Like we do that now, and that's what He's called us to do. And so when I talk about greatness, even when I think about back when when I did leave Eastlake, God had gave
For
me,
those who might not know, that's a church.
Yeah, church, the Eastlake Church. Yeah. When I left the Eastlake Church, God had called me out, and he'd give me this vision of what's to come, and I've had things prophesied in my life, and I was just like, man, I want to chase after those things because that's what God's calling me to do, and it took sacrifice, and it took me having to just trust in the Lord and give Him my attention and give Him my full attention. And that's why I think as we go into this new year, and a challenge for everyone else is like, man, give God your attention. There's a lot of things that are going around in our lives. I think we should acknowledge the power of reflection as well. Reflect on the year that you had, look at it, begin to just even now just discover like, man, what like all the things Armando stated, like, man, what things went well, what things didn't do well, what should I not take into this year, and what I need to drop off in the last year that happened this last year before I walk into the new year. Because there's there is time, and you don't have to, like, even if it doesn't happen on day one, it's just like, man, we can just start now, just do it now. But man, give God our attention this year, and like watch Him exceed our expectations. Watch Him lead us into the greatest year that we've ever had, because He will. Like in sacrificing our expectations, our own fleshly expectations of like, man, I can't, like, oh well, okay, yeah. Like if you say, yeah, I do want to experience, like I want to have faith that God's going to lead me into the greatest year of my life. Sometimes, if your expectation is like, well, I'm going to get the biggest raise that I've had at my job, I'm going to climb the ladder, I'm going to become super wealthy, my family's finally going to be able to do this, or I'm going to be reunited with relationships, health-wise, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight, I'm going to do all, like, it takes, do have that faith, have that
good
boldness,
goals.
Great goals to have, and you should have them, of course, but have that bold faith to believe that, ask God for the strength too, to even just be like, this year is, believe that this year is going to be the greatest year, but like, also, sacrificing our expectations of like, well, maybe God's going to take us in a certain direction at some point in the year that we didn't think we were going to go in. But what God's actually doing is, He's leading you in the direction that's going to benefit you. It's going to glorify Him. That's going to be to add value to other people, for you to grow, for you to just become the better you. And so it's like that's part of the when we want to experience greatness, that's part of the sacrifice we have to make. And it can be super tough, but I know that on the other side of it, it's like, man, there is so much goodness, and there's just like the glory of God shining over us, and just like, man, we get to have joy, and we get to like love what we're doing and be around great people, and it's just like all these amazing things. And so I think that's just my challenge, as like I said from the start of the podcast, like, oftentimes we just walk into New Year's just like, because of, we've discovered because of our past failures. We live by our failures. We live by the past. We live, we expect just, the year's just going to be the same as it was last year because, things didn't go well last year. So, and maybe we don't even have much faith at all. Maybe it's just like the little faith of like, well, hopefully God does lead us. Maybe not even, you don't even say hopefully God leads. Hopefully it's just a better year. That's just a simple statement like that. Or we're living by the future and we're like, well, I can't wait to do this, and I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to become wealthy.
Or once I get this,
once I get that, then I'll be joyful. Then I'll celebrate. Then I'll be experiencing greatness. But it's like, I believe that we can get there. But it's like starts with what we do right now in this moment, and what we do today to make us better for tomorrow. And so, yeah, that's just my encouragement. I think that, I'm excited for what the new year is going to hold. 2023 is going to be amazing.
So am I.
We're planting a church. There's a lot of great things coming
There's
out
room
of
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. We are looking for, leaders, and we're looking for people. We're looking for, just amazing things God's going to do as well. And how he's going to lead people towards us too. And, all the things that we're going to do this year, events and, services and experiences, and how God's going to, I know he's going to exceed our expectations again, because he usually does every time. He always exceeds our expectations. And so, we look forward to, what's to come for the church. We look forward to what's coming with our, whatever amazing other things God has, books, writing, music, all this stuff. That's like, I do believe ultimately that this is going to be a breakthrough year. And I'm having faith in it. I'm going to walk in it. I'm going to be bold with it. I think that's a challenge too for you. It's just like, sometimes you just got to be, live boldly like that. And just be like, and even if, I think the hard part too is, when the world around you says otherwise, it's like, not.
What do you believe?
Yeah.
Right?
Truth. It's the truth.
That's, the world's definitely not going to believe what you believe.
Yeah.
We're not of the world. Mm-hmm. We're in the world, but we're not of the world.
That's right.
And that reflects in how we think, believe, and act. The book of James, when he talks about the two-faced individual, right? He looks himself in the mirror and forgets. Then he says, like, he also talks about prayer. He says, like, you ask, you don't receive because you don't believe. Like, you're asking, but you don't believe it. You're doubting God's going to show up. You're doubting God's going to do a miracle.
That's right.
And for some people, he still will work in your life, even though you lack belief. Now imagine how much more he would have done.
That's right.
If you would have believed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything you're saying, Casey, is on point. I think part of what you're reminding us is that it's more important who you become than what you get or what you do.
Yeah. Yes.
And that you should build your life upon that. And I think 2 verses that we should definitely read, if one of you guys could look, because I think the last summary of this is Matthew 6:33. It's like the culmination of everything you guys are saying. And then the other one is Isaiah 43:19 as we begin the new year. But your best year ahead of you, it's only going to happen. Greatness in your life is only going to happen. Putting God first in your life is only going to happen if you're intentional. You have to be intentionally living in the present, intentionally choosing to grow, intentionally choosing to reflect, intentionally choosing to live in today's possibilities, not tomorrow's possibilities, not on the past of what happened. You have to see that today is the only day we get. John Wooden, I believe it is, who said it, and John Maxwell was who quoted it. But he said, make today your masterpiece. So our job, your job this year, if you're a believer, is to seek God.
Yeah.
So you guys have Matthew 6:33?
Oh yeah, seek first. Yeah. Hold on. Let me look up I don't want to, because.
It's like, oh, he just threw me into it.
No, yeah. Matthew 6:33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you.
Yeah, whatever it is that you're looking for. And all these things are financial, security, shelter, like whatever, health, all these things, clothing will be given to you. But first seek his kingdom and his righteousness.
Yeah.
So like Nate said, if your years haven't panned out, if things haven't worked out, if you've been disillusioned because the things you were hoping for didn't happen, then maybe this is a year for you to try seeking God first.
That's right.
And then remember, as we begin the new year, as we're in 3 days, 2 days into the new year, the possibilities are endless. Casey, do you mind reading Isaiah 43:19?
43:19, yeah. Let me get it. Isaiah 43, this is the NIV version. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland."
Wherever
Amen.
you are, God is doing a new thing in your life.
Amen.
It's a new year. It's a new year of possibility.
That's right.
It's 2023. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
The best is yet to come for you. The best is yet to come for our church family. We are dropping the name very soon.
Yeah.
Here's, we always ask you, not always, but when we remember, we ask you to pray, partner, and participate with us.
Yeah.
Here's how you could be praying specifically for us. We're hoping to raise collectively $500,000 This will help us to plan the church. This will help us to pay for staffing, buy equipment, get our rental in place, and be able to serve the community in the right way.
Yeah.
We need 10 more leaders to get plugged in deeply to serve the church in a high leadership capacity. And we're looking for 125 people in total, including them, to 150 that will get plugged in. Be praying that God leads them to us. Be praying that God brings them to us. And be praying that we have eyes to see them.
Yeah.
Pray for revival in our cities. Participate by just sharing this with people, or by coming, or maybe by giving. Maybe God moves you to give, and you become a donor consistently to help us plant this church. I will plant churches. I will plant churches, and then partner with us in any way you can. By sharing the good word, by listening to this podcast, by screenshotting like our friend Mario does, and posting it on Instagram. Man, the best is yet to come. God is doing new things. We're excited. We love you, and we're for you. But more importantly, God loves you, and He's for you.
Yeah. Happy New Year, guys.